When I say thieving something out of a factory back door, it makes me think of something wildly different than what we're about to talk about. Hey toy fans, so I'm actually here today. This is something I've had since October, and I decided to bring it up to show, and it's going to be a little bit different show than what we normally do, but I came across a whole bunch of these, I guess, like test shot figures. It's a kind of a wild story. In order to get all the information I need for the story, I had reached out to Scott Knightley, who was the brand manager of the Masters Universe Classics and the He-Man branding at Mattel there for a while before they switched over to Giants and then Super 7 and now Origins. I reached out to him for some of this. These particular figures had been after he was already kind of stepped away and had left, so he had a little bit of insight for it. But the main person I talked to was Brian Flynn. Now, Brian Flynn is the main dude from Super 7, so, you know, he was a big part of this. One of the pieces I picked up was actually this right here. And this is what prompted me to start the whole thing. This is a giant-sized test shot. This was a part of a figure promotion they had for San Diego Comic-Con 2015. Now, what Super 7 had done for these is that they had taken the molds that they used for the giant size figures that Mattel had produced a few years before and did what was called test shot colors. Now, if you're not familiar with test shots they're essentially where a factory, in order to test a mold to see if everything's working the proper way, they'll take whatever plastics inside the injector at the time, they'll pour it into the mold, and they'll look to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to. So it's part of quality control. So usually when you get test shot stuff, what it is it's kind of a reject or a testing figure, but it's not actually what's supposed to be on market. Now with this actually happened to be that this was a figure. This was Test Shot C. On He-Man.org, they've got a whole roster of all the different types, but you had 8 figures total. You had 4 He-Man figures and 4 Skeletor figures, and each one had their own kind of color testing look about it. This one would have been Test Shot C. It's missing, of course, He-Man's purple head, a shield, and an axe. Well, I ended up getting this not from San Diego Comic-Con, but I got it actually from a seller on eBay that was directly out of China. And it came as this, and it had like a little ring here that held the head on, but obviously the head had been ripped away. And I was like, well, how am I able to get this for so cheap, but, you know, not have to get the rest of the stuff where it come from? And they were selling lots of them. And so what it was is that I finally found that this came from a factory in China that was actually from Mattel. And kind of what they were doing is they were sneaking this out of the back door because this was all stuff that was supposed to be thrown away. Now, with this particular figure, this is, you know, an actual supposed to be a production sample. Out of that, I ended up winning one of these. Now, this is an actual test shot. And when I say test shot, you know, everything about this so far looks correct except for these arms. What this is that the actual body, loincloth, legs are all a part of what we would have gotten from the actual toy. So this would have been from Mattel. So this is Skeletor's natural colors, except the arms are actually test shotted. So this arm is in kind of this pink plastic. And it's weird because it feels kind of weird, almost a little more hollow than normal. But this arm is test shotted in 2 different colors of pink, one that's lighter than the other. And then you've got this test shotted hand. So they probably molded these 2 hands at the same time because they're both yellow. And what's cool about this is that on this arm, like the plastic they use had it had kind of a satin sheen to it, so it feels almost textured in a way, which makes it feel kind of weird. But this plastic is actually a different plastic than this. And then the hand itself, if you can, there you go. The hand itself actually doesn't hold anything that well because the way the fingers are molded down. So I feel like they probably had to carve out or take some of the, maybe even add some of the molding in there just to get the hand correct. So this was really cool because this was a test shot. And out of that, I also came across a couple of heads. Now with that, we got Stratos' head. And the thing to keep in mind is that this would have been done in Stratos' normal colors. So this would have been molded in the maroon and then the details painted on. So it's part of the giant size. And if you look, you can see where some of the damaging was taking place. Like you can see where this was discarded because it wasn't a good quality piece. And then the other was, of course, it was a Beastman here. And his head actually fits really well. And it's done in Beastman's traditional orange, which I thought was really cool. And then you can see where it's kind of damaged there. It's not wanting to sit straight. By the way, I happen to love this peg versus the other one because you don't have to have the ring and they just kind of snap on and off. So it's nice. So this, and these were actual, these were discarded. This is a test shot. Now, out of that, when I was reaching out, I happened across two more things that made me kind of wonder what was going on, and it was this right here. So we've got one which is Beastman's giant armor, and this is done in kind of a peachy orange, which is kind of strange because the actual plastic that they used for this, for the giant size, would have been in red. And then I don't think there was any variations. The only time we had variations in the original run of He-Man was we had one that was yellow that came with a weapons pack. So this seller was selling this particular, a blue, and then another red version of it. And I was trying to figure out, I was like, they have quite a few of these. Well, not a lot, but they have a few of these. But I don't remember there being any information about a test shot series for Beastman or Stratos. So this is another one that I got online. Now this Stratos one, it actually this is an orangey peach color, so much like this one. I think this is a little bit darker than this. With this one, they had this one in blue and they had this in kind of a maroon color, and the maroon color makes sense because I believe that's the variation. The blue is what he shipped with. The maroon would have been what the factory variation was down the road. So I think it was like red wings, blue harness, or blue harness, red wings, and that was for the other. But the actual initial release was blue with a red harness, or no, blue harness, red wings. So this is orange. So this is completely out of the realm of what they did, and they had blue, red, and orange there, and I was like, okay, obviously something's up. I wonder if they had some sort of like plans to do a test shot Stratos and Beastman, and they didn't. And I actually had reached out to Brian, and this is what I got in the end. It says what that was is we made a mix-up color parts test shot style of the giant size He-Man and Skeletor. So for these, they had done these as a giant size test shots. They were produced by the Mattel factory and not ours. So they had their own particular factory. This actually came from the Mattel factory, which we remember Mattel also did the giant size figures. There were 4 possible combinations of colors of each. So 4 He-Man, 4 Skeletor. It says the stuff you buy on eBay is the scrap or leftover material of figures. This was supposed to be destroyed by the factory. In this case, it was not, and you have a broken, half-completed figures being sold by resellers who are buying them out of the back door of the factory. So this is essentially kind of a stolen item. It says most of the time the scrap is reject parts that fail quality control tests, which makes sense. So in this case, this is I wouldn't want to say a black market toy, but this is a good that was taken, meant to be destroyed, and then sold on the market again. So it's kind of weird holding this. There's a part of me that's like, I don't want to give them, the sellers the power to, continue on having, these things and making money off of. But at the same time, that's cool. This was supposed to have been thrown away. And out of that, I was able to get some actual, color testers or testing ones, and then on top of it I also got an actual color test figure. and all this was supposed to have been thrown away. The other figures I'd come across a giant-sized Man-at-Arms that had various parts on that had been color tested. Wasn't able to get him. There's an axe and a shield that's on their way to me now that I was able to get, but they are essentially the color tested parts for this. So nothing new, nothing crazy. If you got one of these, you're getting the same shield and parts. So I find it kind of interesting. Interesting because, you know, these are parts that are supposed to have been thrown away, never made it to the actual trash of the factory, and instead ended up in my hands. So down below, leave your comments. I'd like to know, what do you feel about this? Do you feel that it's, you know, kind of leading to them to create more theft in a factory? Do you think they're kind of cool? Would you personally have something like this if you knew the story behind it was the same? Would you keep it? Would you get rid of it? You know, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your opinion. Me personally, I kind of feel bad because they were taken, but at the same time, I actually feel kind of cool because they're unique pieces now, pieces that were meant to be destroyed, especially that Skeletor. And, you know, with the Skeletor, like, me personally, that's how I like to display this guy. Skeletor's body, Beastman's head, and, you know, Stratos' jetpack. It makes no sense, but I like displaying him this way. So for me to have, you know, this unique sort of mashup figure made of different parts and test shot actual pieces and reject pieces, I think it's really cool. So like I said, down below, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have a similar story in there. Maybe share the pics with it. And till next time, remember, they're not dolls. They're action figures. In this case, actually kind of like black market action figures.
This episode of Tay Ray Gun was sponsored by Marvin Dog Media. To learn more about Marvin Dog Media, visit www.marvindogmedia.com.
If you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below to let YouTube know that you like what I'm making. And be sure to hit that bell notification so you get updates to future content.